Hey everyone, welcome to the patch 4.4a jungle tier list. In here, I'll be rating all of the viable junglers from the weakest up until the strongest. Take note that this is only my personal preference and some champions can be increased to a higher tier depending on the mastery. So without further ado, let's get into it. First off, we have the C tier, and there are currently 4 champions which are Malphite, Nasus, Pyke, and Sion. These champions can jungle, but I don't recommend them to use them in this role since they are better off being played in another position. The only reason why I place them here is because in the worst case scenario, these champions can actually clear camps and do something in the jungle. Next up is the B tier, and in this list, there are a lot of exotic junglers that personally are very fun to play, like Yasuo, Samira, Renekton, Kayle, Kai'Sa, Irelia, and even Darius. The reason why they aren't higher up in the list is because they may be fun to play, but they are very team comp dependent based on your team comp or even the enemy team comp. They aren't picks that you can just pick blind and win games with. You have to have a comp that supplements them well so that you can pull them off successfully. Other than that, if you want to use any exotic champions, then these can all clear the jungle successfully. After this, we go to the A tier where most of the meta junglers reside. All of these champions are more blind pickable compared to the previous tiers. They also have the potential to carry the game if placed in a good spot. Amumu may be a great initiator and tank, but he doesn't have that carry potential to push him to the next level. He also gets easily countered by just buying QSS. Echo is another champion that can possibly go to the S tier. Maybe one tricks are able to bring up Echo into the next level, but generally, Echo is quite hard to play and needs proper execution to pull him off successfully. Fiora is another high skill champion since she needs to scale and a lot of mechanics are involved. It's probably better to play her in the Baron lane, but she can also carry quite well in the jungle if played correctly. Fizz actually can go to the S tier, especially if one tricks play him, since he has the ability to just one-shot people and has a monster late game. The only problem with this champ is that his early clear is slow, and if he gets behind, he wouldn't be able to do much. Gragas is a staple champion for this tier. Even though he's very flexible, can go either tank or pure damage, he doesn't do that much carry potential to push him to the next level. Gwen, even though she has great carry potential, has a very lackluster early game and she can get punished if the team is able to snowball from the get-go. Jarvan is a jack of all trades but master of none. He doesn't specialize in anything, but he can definitely help his team get ahead and win the game. Jax is in a similar boat as Gwen where he gets stronger as the game goes on, but his early game presence is not that felt, making him very susceptible to getting crushed in the early game, especially since his clear is slow as well. Master Yi is a 50-50, really strong at lower ranks but hard to pull off in the higher ranks since he doesn't have much crowd control and largely depends on his teammates to engage, and it's up to him to go for the clean up. Lilia is also on a similar boat as Gwen where she has a very weak early game, but with the recent changes, Lilia has the potential to now go back to S since her early game has gotten stronger with the new item changes. Morgana has gotten a bit of love, but it's not enough to push her in the S since even though she can clear really fast, outside of providing CC, she has to rely on her teammates to carry the game. Nautilus is a potential S tier champion since he currently has two builds. One is going for the semi-tank and the other one going for pure AP. Definitely has what it takes to get to the next level. Nila is one of the newest champions that is being played in the jungle currently since she has insane scaling potential if she's able to farm properly, get her items. With the new itemization changes, this all benefits her. Mortal Reminder granting crit and Bloodthirster giving her more damage and attack speed as well. Wukong is very weird where he can go to S depending on his teammates. If his teammates can follow up on his engages, then Wukong is definitely an S with all of the sustain that he has. Otherwise, I just place him in the A just to play it a bit safe. Nunu is very similar to Amumu where they both are very tanky, but the only difference is that Nunu has way better objective control. Riven has been S for a while but now has been demoted to A since all of the changes with the items and runes did not benefit her as much. She's still a very strong jungler, but she's a champion that's more suited at the Baron lane for now. Shen has been in this tier even though he has a great early game and global ultimate. If his team falls behind and is not able to protect anyone, it's very hard to win with this champion. Tryndamere is a RNG fiesta. It's either you carry the game with your crits, you're able to farm up, or you don't do anything and just get kited to oblivion. If this was a previous patch, Twitch is definitely S plus tier, but in this patch, he has gotten nerfed as a champion and even the items that he uses. That is why from S plus, he has been brought down to A tier, where he's still very annoying to play against, but he just can't one-shot as compared to the previous patch. Warwick is a very staple champion to play but can't get into a higher tier due to his kit being very weird, where sometimes he can carry the game and lifesteal his way out and sometimes he can't do anything since he's just gonna get bursted every fight, which is why he's a perfect A tier champion. Xin Zhao is a champion that can go S depending on the team composition. If the opponents have a lot of range, then Xin Zhao is a perfect champion to counter them since his ultimate just deflects all of the possible projectiles. Zed Jungle is another champion that's quite fun to play, and the recent armor pen changes benefits him a lot, actually making him a viable jungler. He just can't go up a tier since it's quite hard to play this champion in the jungle and would need a good early game to pull him off, similar to Fizz. Dr. Mundo has gotten an increase in rank from B to A because his clear speed is actually really fast, and even though he's a tank, he can still deal damage with his pokes. The only problem with this champion is that he doesn't provide enough CC to annoy the opponents and can just be ignored in a team fight. Next up is the S tier, where all of these champions are very strong and is something your teammates would like to see in their games. Starting up with Aatrox, he has gotten a bit of a buff and is a very solid champion. If you're able to utilize his sweet spots well and get a reset, he can also be even in the S plus tier. Diana is a champion that has been lingering here for a while with the Shattered Crown, even though it has gotten a bit of a nerf. Still a very solid champion. If you're able to pull off a good initiate, you would be able to burst their entire team. Jace is another champion that can easily get to S plus tier when played correctly. He has a lot of burst damage and poke, which makes him very annoying to play against. The only issue with this champion is that he's a bit squishy, and if he's placed out of position or gets behind, then he wouldn't be able to do much. Next up is Kayn. I'm referring to the blue Kayn, where if he's able to get his form early, then he could just carry games by himself. The only problem is if the opponents have a lot of melee, then it's very hard to get a blue Kayn. That's why he's not in the S plus tier. Kha'Zix's another very staple champion. Even with the crown being annoying, you can still pull him off successfully by just using W to remove the crown and then bursting your opponents. Lee Sin has gotten a lot of buffs recently and is still a very solid champion. You can never go wrong on picking Lee Sin unless you don't know how to use him properly. Olaf is another S champion that can go S plus depending on the enemy team composition. If they don't have a lot of dashes and have a lot of CC, then Olaf is the perfect counter pick against your opponent. Pantheon may have a lackluster late game, but he makes up for it for a monster early game. If you get early kills, then you can affect all of the lanes since you have global ultimate to help them snowball the game. Ramos may be the best tank this patch since he has a lot of durability with the second skill, first skill for mobility, and even third skill to provide CC. The only reason why he's not S plus is because he doesn't have the ability to carry games by himself. Rengar is a champion that is a bit lackluster recently since all of the new changes doesn't affect him that much. A good thing about this champion is that he can adjust his build depending on his teammates. If you have a lot of frontline, you can go for the burst Rengar. If you don't have any frontline, you can just go for the tank Rengar. Still a very effective champion overall. Shyvana is another champion that has gotten a buff and is still very effective. If you're able to freely farm with this champion, then she could just carry the game 1v9. Even though she doesn't have the best early game, she makes up for it by farming really fast. Similar to Shyvana, Vi has also gotten a buff, making her a bit more durable and decreasing the cooldown of her ultimate, making her scarier to play against. Volibear, similar to Vi, where he has really strong ganks, good clear, and is very beefy overall, making him a solid S champion. With the recent changes on the Bloodthirster, this has benefited Yone a lot, making him way scarier once he's able to complete his first item, and even though he's a scaling champion, he can still become active in the early game since he has a lot of crowd control. That's why he's one tier higher than the likes of Gwen and Lilia. Camille is a very strong champion overall with a lot of pick-off potential and great scaling. The only problem is that she's very weak before you get your first item. Last but not the least is the S plus tier, where these are currently the best solo queue junglers right now. Hecarim, for obvious reasons, this guy can do anything that he wants. He has really fast clear, insane mobility, good ganks, can provide crowd control, high damage throughout the game, no clear weaknesses, really good early, mid, and late, and even has sustain in his kit. There's no counter to this champion aside from getting bad teammates. Fiddlesticks, despite getting hotfix nerfs, is still in this tier because his ultimate is just the most broken ability in the game right now. He can just single-handedly win a team fight with just one button. His ultimate range is quite long, so it's hard to counter it as well. His only possible weakness is that if he makes a mistake with his ultimate, then he wouldn't be able to do much. But decent Fiddlesticks players can always properly use their ulti. Eve is a champion that has risen to this tier because the AP itemization just benefits her so much. With Crown being the perfect item, allowing for no counterplay, she can just go in, burst someone without any drawback at all, since the Crown will mitigate any possible burst that can happen to her. If you're able to get a good early game, then the game is just done, since it's very hard to counter this champion right now. The only issue is that she is a bit hard to play and requires a different playstyle, but if you're able to master her, then it's quite easy to win games with this champion right now. Her initial clear is one of the fastest, if not the fastest in the game, and once you get level 5, you are chilling with this champion. So with that, this is our current tier list for patch 4.4a. If you have any suggestions or questions, feel free to comment down below. I hope you guys enjoyed our jungle tier list. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Peace out. Ciao, ciao.